So this is William Simpson. I'm standing in an alpine meadow at about 3,000 feet elevation. It's August 2nd. There's a big wildfire burning 25 miles from here. And I'm looking at this herd of native species, American wild horses, that are making this alpine pasture fire resistant. They're reducing the fuels and they're doing it in a way that's symbiotic. And they're sequestering the carbon. They're not, burning these grasses. It just sends all the toxins, the carbon compounds into the sky, increases the climate change. It speeds it up because you're adding more hydrocarbons. These guys are doing something real important. They're reseeding this pasture. They're natives reseeders. So livestock can't do that. Cattle and sheep, livestock can't do this job. They cannot reseed a native pasture because they digest all the seeds they eat. Horses pass out all the seeds they eat in their droppings, and on top of it, their droppings contain microbiome that restore the microbiome in the soil. So the droppings that contain the seeds also they're like a little microcosm of the universe. They've got all the tiny bacterias and things in the dropping along with the seeds, and then nutrients. So their droppings are they're absolutely amazing. They restore the land. They reseed these native plants. They get nourishment from the native plants, and then they complete the native plants and grasses their life cycle by reseeding. And it's just a beautiful it's an evolutionary relationship between the flora and the fauna here. These large body herbivores, being fauna, are doing something very, very important here. They're assuring the future of this pasture because they're fertilizing it and they're reseeding it and they're making it fire resistant. If we got a fire in this alpine pasture now, it would burn low and slow. It wouldn't burn with a 12-foot flame height like we're seeing just 25 miles away where the grass is 2.5 feet tall. This pasture is maintained by this herd of horses. These natural horses here, they're maintaining this pasture. They're guaranteeing the future of this pasture and the trees in it and the animals that depend on the grasses and the forbs in the area. They are protecting it. If we put livestock in here, they would strip off, since they digest the seeds, they would strip off all this flora, and we'd end up with catastrophic erosion. We'd end up with a loss of co-evolved birds and mammals that also eat these grasses and forbs. All of it would collapse because they're an invasive species. It is what it is. I'm not anti-livestock, but there's places to do livestock and there's places to do wild horses. If we put wild horses in the right places, they can be a huge benefit to taxpayers, also for ranchers. We don't need to be commingling wild horses with livestock. That's a mistake, because wild horses need their co-evolved predators. They engage in a thing called natural selection, which is the removal of sick, elderly, and weak animals, and that preserves the genetic vigor of these wild horses. These horses in this area do not overpopulate. Their population is regulated by bears, lions, wolves, coyotes, even bobcats. The big bobcats here will take a baby horse like this little baby right here, standing by his mommy. He weighs about 50 pounds. A big bobcat can take him down. And so this little guy over here is a little bit too big, I think, for a bobcat, but certainly packs of coyotes would take him out, or an adult lion or a bear. We have a stable population here. We don't have a problem. So we need to talk seriously about Wild Horse Fire Brigade and putting horses, instead of in captivity, putting them into areas where they benefit the landscape, the ecosystem, and taxpayers, reducing fire, enhancing the ecosystems by reseeding, preventing erosion, reducing the catastrophic level of these fires, reducing the heat and intensity of these fires. This is what we need to be doing. We need to see this in our critical wilderness, our designated wilderness areas, and they bring back the deer. you know, when they've got co-evolved predators, so when the predators are taking horses, that means they're taking less deer and elk. So that, you know, it's all about balance. It's about ecological balance. Apparently they don't teach that anymore, because I talk to people all the time that don't understand the value of these horses if they're in the right place. In the right place, they're golden. In the wrong place, they can be a problem. Of course they can. You just can't be putting horses anywhere. They've got to be where they belong. So if we manage these horses accordingly, here's a couple of boys. Now this is natural selection right here. These are two stallions that are jousting for breeding rights. That has to happen because the best horse wins, the strongest, the smartest. You don't want your lesser horses breeding the herd. And you know, this is part of natural selection. There's a lot of layers on natural selection, and it leads to the vigor of the species. So we have to do this better than we're doing it. We've been doing it really poorly. It's been driven by ignorance and monetary motivation instead of by looking at ecological balance and benefits for taxpayers. We can do this much better and more cost effectively. This field now, these guys are protecting this field. This field will not burn catastrophically. And this field is fertilized and reseeded naturally. So it assures the future of this field, this alpine meadow. Very important stuff. It's missed by a lot of people. Wild Horse Fire Brigade can assure the future of our wilderness areas and our native species wild horses. But we've got to get rid of the bad paradigms, you know, the chemical treatments, chemical sterilization, artificial band-aids to keep horses in areas where they shouldn't be, ecologically damaged areas without their predators. All that's got to end. That's all bad management, and it's based on ignorance. So we need to look at Wild Horse Fire Brigade. We need to bring this to our legislators, our county commissioners. We have existing law that allows us to do it right now. HR 1625 section 313 allows for the humane transfer of wild horses. They have protections under that law when they're transferred that stick with them for their lives. We have a way to do this right now, and it can save taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars through the reduction of fire and the reduction of this unneeded captivity and feeding horses hay. You know, feeding them hay when they can be out here actually taking it right off the ground and reducing the fire fuels. When you think about it in proper context, it's just really silly when you see what's going on right now. But the good news is we can fix it. Wild Horse Fire Brigade. Let's get everybody involved here. Wild Horse Fire Brigade.